Borderlands 4 is almost here, and it's building a lot from previous titles. With the brand new, fully seamless world of Kairos, a ton of revamped traversal mechanics, 4 new Vault Hunters, and a whole lot more. A massive thank you to 2K for sponsoring this video, in which I'll be breaking down all of the crucial new details you need to know before playing Borderlands 4. So be sure to check the game out in the description, and without further ado, let's dive right in. So first up, Borderlands 4 is set on the new planet of Kairos, formerly hidden from the rest of the galaxy until revealed by Pandora's moon following the events of Borderlands 3. Now, Kairos is ruled over by a tyrannical dictator known as the Timekeeper, who, with the help of neck implants called bolts, maintains control over the masses, keeping a perfect order. The whole planet is one large, fully seamless map divided into 4 zones with no loading screens. You can literally just drive from one side to the other, and from trailers and gameplay footage, these zones appear very much varied in tone. And whilst I love the general space western feel of the overall franchise, I think it'll be refreshing to see some more greenery here, though wasteland and snow still seem like they'll be featuring plenty, as well as giant unique vaults to explore. These will need to be opened by tracking down vault key fragments in the world, and will boast some awesome unique boss fights, as well as powerful upgrades and loot. In order to learn more about the immediate environments, we'll first want to seek out silos though, places that turn into fast travel points once discovered, as well as revealing nearby points of interest and loot. There's also going to be dynamic weather and events that take place across the game map, suggesting that Kairos will be the most alive feeling Borderlands map ever, and with such a vast open world to explore, come a variety of new ways to do that. So, building on the previous games, significantly, Borderlands 4 will feature a huge new roster of moves. We'll now be able to glide across the map from high places, double jump, climb certain surfaces, and very thankfully, dash. I think that one's going to make a very big difference against melee-based enemies especially, allowing us to simply dodge as they get too close. There's also going to be a grappling hook capable of interacting with certain things in the environment, for both zipping across vast distances, as well as grabbing and moving certain items, a skill that's no doubt going to come in handy in boss arenas especially. Vehicles too have seen a revamp in Borderlands 4, and given the scope of the world, will be more important than ever. Therefore, rather than only spawning from a certain place, we'll have access to the Digirunner, a vehicle that materializes directly on us, and means we don't have to worry about getting caught without a ride in the middle of nowhere. We also won't have to worry about manually grabbing stuff from every loot stash we find, as that's simply going to auto-collect as we explore. But, whilst an expansion of scope and scale have been a heavy focus for this game, Borderlands 4 of course comes with 4 new Vault Hunters to play as, each with 3 core action skills which branch into huge subsets of other skills. Variety of character builds has also been a huge focus, with the idea of having builds so diverse that even 2 of the same character will likely play vastly differently. On the official Borderlands channel, there's story, gameplay, and breakdown trailers looking at all of these 4, so plenty of details already on who they are and how they'll play. Starting off with Vex, the playable siren of this game, who appears to get her powers during the craziest store fire sale ever. There's a strong focus with her character on summoning minions, with firstly a phase familiar, a large cat called Trouble, who will aid us in combat, Incarnate, which is a soul orb for dealing massive explosive damage with Eldritch Blasts, cooling down quicker the more damage dealt, or, for those who prefer more humanoid summons, Dead Ringer offers either stationary ghostly doppelgangers to lay down fire support, or a giant scythed Reaper with the ability to taunt. Now, moving on to the next Vault Hunter, called Rafa, and he's something more of a cyber ninja. Equipped with a Tediore exoskeleton, he was meant to be killed by the company, since dead soldiers are cheaper than living ones, but fought for his life and fled. He can potentially make for the most melee-focused build ever, dealing speedy AoE damage with his arc knives, or he can utilize his suit's Peacekeeper turrets, which can be equipped to fire supporting rocket, shotgun, or laser ammunition. Otherwise, there's the Apophis Lance, designed to fire explosive blasts of energy. And he's probably the sort of thing I'd naturally gravitate towards in most games, but honestly, each of these 4 Vault Hunters all have abilities that I really want to try out. Harlow is a gravity manipulating techie scientist who we see in her trailer needing to steal her tech back from Maliwan. Her Chrome Accelerator sends out this explosive gravitational orb for massive amounts of damage, whilst her Flux Generator offers both offensive and defensive buffs, healing for allies whilst freezing our enemies, as well as entangling them for a temporary shared damage pool. Though, if you prefer something of a combination between these, then 0 Point is the ability to immobilize enemies in gravity bubbles, then move them as we wish, either slamming them into the ground or, better still, other foes. Finally, the character that seems most in line with tanky builds is the Forge Knight named Amon, seen in the trailer valiantly trying to save innocents from a band of cultists, using his immense strength to even crush an enemy's skull with his bare hands. He can use a combo of flaming and frosty axes, even throwing them like an explosive boomerang, or he can use Scourge, an ability designed to both absorb incoming damage with his shield before sending it back with a whip. But again, there's plenty of variance with this. The shield can also be potentially thrown, or we can create a fireball that blocks incoming fire and strengthens our outgoing. Though, if I end up choosing Amon, I imagine I'll go more with the Onslaughter ability, granting us simply a pair of powerful flaming fists, which can weaken or even explode our foes. Again, there's going to be a ton more variance and passives within each of these due to the various skills, with replayability at the forefront of this game's design. But no matter how varied build options and game mechanics are, replayability is only really worth it if there's a story worth replaying. And for Borderlands 4, it seems like they're definitely pulling back from the more overtly humorous tone of the third game to something still funny in the Borderlands style, but much more grounded in its own reality. We don't know much about the main villain, called the Timekeeper yet, of course, but he seems like a much more high-stakes, serious villain who, as we know, presides over and has practically enslaved an entire planet. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to know what his abilities or motives are just yet, but if I were to guess, then I'd say they're to do with time and maybe keeping order. There's also gonna be plenty of returning characters though from previous games as well. Amara, Zane, Claptrap, obviously, as well as Moxie, who actually seems to be playing a key role in the game's replayability, with something called Moxie's Encore Machine. This will allow us to replay boss fights and even entire missions without having to manually reload previous saves. It'll also presumably allow us to test different builds against the same bosses, who apparently have also seen an increase in toughness for this game. Though, given the fully seamless nature of this world, if something is proving too tough, you can just go off, level some more and come back. We're also getting a new robot companion called Echo 4, who's going to be crucial in exploring this world, able to mark nearby points of interest, as well as create a waypoint trail highlighting the best path to the current goal. So no more making a beeline for the objective, only to realize we've hit a dead end and have to double back a whole bunch. Another thing Borderlands 4 is expanding massively on, of course, is weapons. Definitely one of the things that 3 improved on the most, with 4 then taking its steps even further. In addition to the classic weapon manufacturing companies, there's also going to be 3 new ones for this game, with the first being the Order, specializing in high damage, chargeable precision weapons, which is probably the most exciting type for me personally. But there's also the Ripper, designed to charge up then maintain rapid gunfire, and finally Daedalus, who, rather than switching between different modes, switches between different ammo types, making for great versatility. But guns overall are gonna get yet more versatile still, thanks to the licensed parts system, where, in universe, the different companies have licensed and patented their respective weapon modifiers, allowing other manufacturers to also use their parts, meaning we can mix different types of modifier onto a singular weapon. For instance, we can have the throwing away rather than reloading part of a TDR gun mixed with the interchangeable ammo of the new Daedalus. The new enhancement system is also going to buff this even further too, with enhancements focusing especially on improving the parts of specific manufacturers. The consistency of legendary drops has also been scaled back a bit from 3 as well to make exploration more rewarding, and different licensed parts a bit more rare. Grenades and heals too have seen significant change, no longer needing to be found out in the world, with grenades inhabiting the new ordnance slots, shared with heavy weapons like rocket launchers and throwing knives. No longer will these things run out per se, they'll simply require recharging, and ditto with heals, which will now be handled through our rep kit, something to buff not only our health, but things like damage and weapon effectiveness too. There's also no longer just the basic energy shield, but also armor as well, offering damage mitigation of a certain percentage as opposed to just straight up initial negation. Armor also regenerates entirely on a time basis, so you don't have to hide behind cover and wait for it to come back, like with a shield. Certainly much more befitting for a berserker tank type build. Again, the amp up in challenge for Borderlands 4 seems designed to reflect all of these new combat abilities, making it more rewarding to slot powerful and effective equipment combos that synergize well, to deliver some insanely high multiplied damage across fights. And that customizability won't just apply to weapons, but also across our Vault Hunter's skills as well. Each Vault Hunter will again have 3 core action skills to choose from, each with then massive skill trees coming off of that. At launch, a max leveled character will be able to obtain 49 skill points in total, meaning you can just about min-max 2 of these trees, if you neglect the 3rd entirely. And each character will also have a passive trait that activates when they use their action skills and is entirely unique to them. Vex's summons can match the elemental damage of her equipped weapon, Rafa can massively boost his speed during an action, Amon can perform multiple actions immediately, one after another, and Harlow will entangle her enemies, to have a shared damage pool during her action AoE attacks. There's also just a bunch more expanded cosmetic customization, not just for our Vault Hunter, but Echo 4 as well. So I really think they want to make sure no 2 players either look nor play the same. And finally, a couple more technical things worth knowing. Quests will auto-complete once done. They won't have to be handed in per se, and therefore will save on unnecessary travel back and forth. All of the settings will have a ton of in-depth sliders. For instance, we can individually mute Claptrap if we so wish. Competitive loot isn't going to be a problem in this game, everybody gets their own set of stuff. And in multiplayer mode, teammates are going to be able to fast travel to one another. And if you still love playing games with friends or family in person, then 2-player split screen, that beautiful blast from the past, will also be an option in this game. Or, if you mostly play online, then the game is available on all consoles, including the Switch too, and will be fully cross-platform. And playing with friends is definitely going to be the best way to see all of the Vault Dwellers in action sooner, rather than, waiting to do a playthrough with each. There's also already big plans for post-launch content, as usual with Borderlands games, with the release of this one set to push the overall franchise past 100 million units sold. So let me know in the comments what you're most excited about for Borderlands 4, as well as which Vault Hunter you're mostly leaning towards playing. Subscribe for more Borderlands 4 content when the game releases. Thank you again to 2K for sponsoring this video, and a massive thank you as always to the patrons and new channel members for helping to keep the channel going. Cheers for watching, I'm Bram, and I'll see you in the next one.